What is PDA? Understanding Pathological Demand Avoidance. In this video we will cover the following. An overview of PDA, what is happening in the brain, the nervous system, and the respective physiological impacts. 2. Understanding what are demands, and what the responses may look like, including masking, and how that plays a significant role in proper support for PDA children. 3. What is PDA burnout? 4. Various strategies that you can use to support these children. And finally we will close with sharing answers to misconceptions and popular questions. PDA stands for Pathological Demand Avoidance, although you may also hear the term pervasive drive for autonomy. It is considered a profile of autism, and estimates are that 20% of people with autism have PDA. Additionally, PDA is considered a nervous system condition, as the brain and nervous system respond to everyday demands with intense anxiety and stress, resulting in meltdowns, panic attacks, shutdowns, or burnout without proper support. To effectively understand PDA, it is crucial to understand what is a demand. We often think of demands as formal requests to do something, but a better way to understand it is rather think of it as expectations. It is any type of expectation, both external and internal, that we have in a day. This view shows a snapshot for a child, but on average, we all face hundreds of demands or expectations daily, but as a neurotypical, these barely register for us, but for someone with PDA, each of these feel like a demand on their autonomy. Demands are anything that requires the child to take an action or respond in a certain way, and come from all areas of daily experience, including daily routines, school tasks, social expectations, rules, instructions, transitions, and even personal care. For children with PDA, these demands can feel threatening and overwhelming because their nervous system perceives them as a loss of autonomy. To understand PDA, it helps to look at how the brain functions, especially the different parts involved in thinking and survival. The thinking brain, which is the part of the brain responsible for higher-level functions, like planning, problem-solving, decision-making, and controlling emotions. It helps us think through situations calmly and make reasoned choices. When this part of the brain is active, a person can manage demands and regulate their responses effectively. The second area is the survival brain, which operates mostly subconsciously and is responsible for keeping us safe. It reacts quickly to perceived danger by triggering survival responses via our nervous system. It is designed to protect us from immediate threats by activating these automatic reactions. In children with PDA, the survival brain is regularly triggered not just by physical danger, but by demands. And this causes the child to respond with resistance, anxiety, or emotional and physical reactivity. Because the survival brain is so dominant in these moments, the thinking brain's ability to plan, problem solve, and regulate emotions is reduced. This explains why children with PDA may seem to shut down or react strongly, even when there is no physical threat. A great metaphor is to think of the brain as a car, with two drivers sharing the wheel. The thinking brain is the calm, experienced driver who plans the route, follows traffic rules, and makes thoughtful decisions. The survival brain is the nervous, reactive driver who is always on high alert for danger, and ready to slam on the brakes, or swerve to avoid perceived threats. When the survival driver takes over, the calm driver can't steer properly, the car might stop suddenly, speed up, or take sharp turns. In children with PDA, the survival driver often feels threatened by everyday demands, so they take control to protect the car. Nervous system, survival responses. When the survival brain is triggered, it overrides the thinking brain and leads to the nervous system survival responses. These responses are automatic and subconscious. As again, they were designed to protect us from perceived threats or danger, but in PDA, this is by the way of demands. There are four main survival responses, and this is what may occur when a PDA child is in one of these states. Freeze. The child may become immobile or shut down. They might become mute, stare blankly, zone out, or make unusual sounds like an animal grunting. This is their way of avoiding confrontation when overwhelmed, and can look like withdrawal or disengagement. Flight. This involves physically removing themselves from the situation. Examples include eloping, which is running away, hiding, or just leaving the room. It is their attempt to escape the demand or stressor. Fight. The child stays in place and resists the demand. This can be verbal, like arguing or shouting, physical, such as pushing, hitting, throwing things, or through straight defiance, so saying no, simply refusing. It is a direct attempt to regain control or push back against perceived threats. Fawn. This one is less commonly discussed, but equally important. The child adapts their behavior to fit in and avoid being targeted. It can look like masking or people-pleasing. Fawning is a survival strategy to reduce the demand by placating others. It is important that we recognize these responses for what they are, survival responses and not behavioral issues, as this is what will help us respond with empathy and allow us to adjust our approach accordingly. Physiological responses. Now let's take a look at how the child's body is responding. When a child with PDA is acting out their survival responses, you see the external behavior, but they are also having internal body experiences. Their body is reacting automatically, before the child has a chance to think logically, as again, they are in the survival brain. Here are some common physiological signs that indicate a child is experiencing stress or anxiety related to the demands. Increased heart rate. You might notice the child's pulse is rapid, or they say their heart feels like it's racing. Shaking or tremors, the child may get on the floor and almost look like they are convulsing. They may feel dizzy or sense of lightheadedness. Their stomach may ache or they feel nauseous. They may start to fidget, tap, rock or make repetitive motions. Also they may find it hard to breathe and have sweaty or clammy hands. If you have experienced a panic attack, you can probably relate to several of these symptoms, but if not, a good analogy to put this into perspective is imagine you're walking home late at night, and it is dark, and the streetlights are dim. Suddenly, you hear footsteps behind you, quick, steady, and getting closer. Instantly, your heart starts pounding and racing faster. Your muscles tense up. Your breathing becomes shallow and rapid, almost like you're gasping for air. Your hands get sweaty and clammy. Even if you tell yourself you're safe, your body is convinced there's danger and is preparing to react. This overwhelming flood of physical sensations can make it hard to think clearly or stay calm. It is your body's survival alarm in full force. This is what these children can feel with the simplest demand, such as get dressed, brush your teeth, do your homework. It is so important that if we see these signs, or if the child tells us, that we pause, empathize, and reduce demands. There are two ways PDA children may respond to demands. The first is exhibiting some of the reactions shared earlier when we spoke of fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, but some additional ones to be aware of are as follows. Crying, tears and emotional upset are common. Yelling or raising their voice. Withdrawal, the child may physically remove themselves by sitting away from the group or hiding. Mood swings, they will quickly shift from calm to extremely upset, 0 directly to 100. Task avoidance, wandering, procrastinating, or distracting themselves to avoid the task. Negotiation, changing instructions, or bargaining to gain some control. Also they may experience sensory overload, and exhibit behaviors like covering ears, pacing, or flapping hands. This is the second response you may see, nothing, child looks perfectly fine, may be smiling, seems to be interacting okay with others, is actively participating in an activity. And that lies in why this disability can be so difficult to support, as you don't always see it. PDAers are known for being extremely high masking. If you are not familiar with masking, the PDAer will hide or suppress, and will appear to be just fine, so masking is like putting on a costume and acting in a play. The child puts in a lot of effort to appear calm, capable, and typical on the outside, even though inside, they may be feeling anxious, stressed, or overwhelmed. Once they are in their safe zone, however, which is often the home, the impact will come out in full force. Meaning that many of the symptoms mentioned earlier, the family will see at home: screaming, crying, mute, an inability to do things like brush teeth, eat dinner, and they may also get physically aggressive. So what we really need to understand is that just because you don't see the struggle does not mean it's not there. Also note there is a caveat, as if the child is in burnout, it is much harder for them to mask, and some of these symptoms may become visible, which will be explained further along in this session. Burnout defined. Burnout in PDA is a state of intense physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. It happens when the nervous system has been on high alert for a prolonged period. This high alert state is often due to overwhelming demands, sensory overload, and constant masking. Burnout is more than just feeling tired, it affects every aspect of their life and of their family. During burnout, their basic needs like eating, sleeping, hygiene, and social connection can and often do break down. Common signs of burnout include: easily dysregulated, the child may have difficulty managing emotions, and can become upset, irritable, enraged, and sometimes violent. Loss of speech, they might become nonverbal, or have trouble expressing themselves. Skill regression, skills they previously had, may temporarily disappear or weaken. Withdrawal from social interaction, they may isolate themselves or avoid social contact. Heightened anxiety, anxiety levels increase significantly. Increased sensory sensitivities, sensory inputs that were manageable before, may become overwhelming. Changes in sleep habits, difficulty falling asleep, and staying asleep. School refusal, they may refuse to attend school or participate in activities. Inability to do hygiene, basic self-care tasks like washing, dressing, or brushing teeth, may become impossible. PDA burnout can persist for months and sometimes years, and navigating it requires substantial support. Recovery focuses on patience, reducing demands, and prioritizing emotional health over meeting expectations. Support strategies. These are 4 key strategies that you can apply with the child to reduce their anxiety. The foundation of everything is to first start with building trust and connection. Show empathy for their experience, that you understand what they're going through. Be warm and patient when you talk with them. Spend time together just for fun, without any pressure or expectations. 2. Reduce pressure by reducing demands. When possible, replace with gentle suggestions. Offer choices. And use gentle and indirect language. 3. Use negotiation and collaboration. Ask for their ideas and input. Find compromises that work for everyone. And respect their need for autonomy. And lastly, when you can bring enjoyment to tasks or things they need to do. Turn it into a game or a challenge. Be spontaneous and creative, allowing for different ways to complete tasks. It's key to remember the goal with a PDA child is not compliance, but collaboration, and when we meet them where they are, it creates space for genuine connection and growth. Popular questions. There is a lot of curiosity about PDA. These are the top questions we see. 1. What is the difference between pathological demand avoidance and oppositional defiant disorder, or ODD? Pathological demand avoidance is a profile on the autism spectrum. PDA behaviors are a subconscious stress response, as their nervous system perceives demands as threats. Whereas ODD is a behavioral disorder, characterized by a pattern of defiant, hostile, or argumentative behavior, generally toward authority figures, and typically without the underlying anxiety, sensory, and social challenges seen in PDA. 2. Should all demand avoidance be considered PDA? No, pathological demand avoidance is extreme, and pervades all aspects of the child's life. Another distinction is that they avoid not only unpleasant tasks, but activities they enjoy. So with PDA, the child may want to go to the birthday party, the desire is there, but the PDA makes it impossible. Also, they sometimes avoid what their body wants, so this could mean sleeping or eating. Their body is telling them it needs to, but their brain is stopping them. 3. Is PDA really different from autism, or just autism with anxiety? PDA is a profile within the autism spectrum. While anxiety is central, PDA involves extreme demand avoidance, people-pleasing, and an intense need for autonomy that goes beyond typical anxiety. 4. If they avoid demands, how will they ever cope with real life? With the right supports, the PDAers do build coping tools. Reducing pressure and demands helps them feel safe, which in turn makes them more able to engage and learn real-life skills. 5. If they can do something sometimes, why can't they do it all the time? Ability doesn't equal availability. Children with PDA may have the skills or capacity to do a task, whether physical, cognitive, or social, but the presence of a demand can trigger intense anxiety. This blocks access to those abilities. This is not a matter of choice, it's that the neurological drive to resist perceived demands can temporarily override what they can do. 6. What's the difference between a PDA meltdown and a tantrum? A tantrum is usually a deliberate, goal-driven outburst. The child may be seeking attention, a desired object, or to avoid something unpleasant, and it can often be managed using reasoning, rewards, or consequences. In contrast, a PDA meltdown is not a matter of choice. It is an intense response to overwhelming anxiety, sensory overload, and a perceived loss of control. At this point, the child's nervous system is in high alert, and their brain cannot access regulation strategies or logical reasoning. Attempts to reason, reward, or punish during a PDA meltdown will often fail, and can even worsen the distress. These meltdowns are the body and brain's way of coping with extreme stress, signaling that support, reassurance, and a reduction of demands are urgently needed. 7. Doesn't reducing demands mean they'll never build resilience? The opposite. Meeting children with PDA where they are, reducing demands and creating safety, lowers stress and anxiety. In this supportive environment, they can gradually practice skills, try coping strategies, and build confidence at their own pace. 8. Do PDA children ever grow out of it? No, PDA is understood to be a lifelong profile within the autism spectrum. It's not something children simply grow out of. However, with the right support and a nurturing, understanding environment, individuals with PDA can grow, adapt, and thrive. Thank you for watching and learning with us. Download our free guide for additional resources and support.